Mr. President, whatever higher power is looking down on us all as we move through our daily lives, I imagine he probably doesn't see political borders. I imagine he probably doesn't care much about the distinctions that we create to tell the difference between us and others. He probably doesn't care much about walls and fences. He cares about us as people. He looks at us, how we conduct ourselves, and how we treat others. We spend a lot of time here talking about the arbitrary divisions between us, but in the end, when we face our Maker, it probably is just about how we treated those around us, whether we tried to make their lives a little bit better. And so I'm on the floor this afternoon to talk about a handful of my constituents who need our help. Young people that we have labeled with the term dreamers, who came to this country not by their decision, but by the decision of their parents when they were very, very young. They are Americans in every sense of the word. They are beautiful, beautiful young men and women. And they want us to see them as the beautiful individuals that they are. They don't want to be labeled. They don't want to be put into the middle of a divisive political dialogue. They just want our help. And we all hear from them because there's no state that doesn't have these kids. There's 800,000 that have officially registered under the existing law that provides them with protection. They're in every single congressional district. And I thought it'd be useful for my colleagues to hear from just a few of them today, because they can tell the story of why we need to give citizenship, permanent protection to these kids, at the very least, if not their parents and others that have been waiting for a long time for comprehensive immigration reform. They can tell this story better than I can. Vanya from Willimantic, she's a student at Eastern Connecticut State University. Just want to read you what she wrote to me. She said, "I was born in Mexico and I was brought to the United States at age 3. And I've been living in Willimantic ever since. I'm 19 now. I grew up in Willimantic, Connecticut. I consider it my home. It's where I grew up. It's where I went to school. It's where I made friends. It's where all my memories are. As an undocumented student in the United States, you're constantly unsure of what your future may hold, but not because you're indecisive or you're unsure of what you're going to do, but rather because you don't ultimately have the power of your own future. At a young age, I always knew that I wanted to go to college. However, I also knew that because of my status, I might not have been able to carry out that goal. I didn't let it discourage me. I, like many other undocumented students, did the best we could and constantly strived to be the best at anything we did. And now, thanks to DACA and all of the hard work that I've done, it's finally begun to pay off. DACA is more than just legal status. It's the puzzle piece that many of us have been missing in order to reach our goals. It allowed me to get a Social Security number, a driver's license, but more importantly, a higher education. Growing up, I constantly had all my teachers say to me, "Do good in school, try your best at anything you do, stay out of trouble, and you're going to be guaranteed to go far in life." Let me step out of her comments for a second. Boy, if that's not an encapsulation of the American dream, do good in school, try your best at anything you do, stay out of trouble, and you're guaranteed to go far in life. I don't think I could find a better way to encapsulate what we hope is the story for every single child in this country. Vanya says, "So that's exactly what I did. Most other DACA recipients are the exact same, but it currently doesn't seem enough for this government. There's no longer a fight for a work permit, but rather a fight for my human rights. I'm just as worthy to live here and carry out my goals as any other natural-born citizen I've done my best, consistently contributed to society in a positive way. This is my home, says Vanya. I deserve to feel safe here, and I'll continue to fight for that until I do. Mirka is from Wallingford, Connecticut, and she's a Southern Connecticut State University student. She says, I came here from Mexico 16 years ago. I'm currently a senior at Southern Connecticut State University. I'm studying bilingual education. We need more good people in bilingual education. I just started student teaching last week, but all that is in danger. Besides being able to get a license and a work permit, DACA has allowed me to follow through on my passion of becoming a teacher, writes Mirka. It's given me hope that I have a future career in education and that I can live my life without fear of deportation. In-need profession, bilingual educators, somebody willing to devote their life to our kids needs our help. Faye in Norwalk says, I'm one of the more than 800,000 DACA recipients in the United States. I'm from Trinidad and Tobago and have been in the United States for almost 19 years. I live in Norwalk, and I've lived there for 16 years. It's home to me. You hear that over and over again. It's home to me. I'm currently a lead radiology scheduler, and I have a second job working at Ulta, which I both enjoy. My goal in working both jobs is to purchase my first home, another really critical component of the American dream, home ownership. Growing up, I wanted to be a homeowner. I wanted a place that I could call mine. And with DACA, I saw that as a possibility. Now I'm not sure when or if that would come through, but I still will continue to work hard because in my heart, I know God is bigger than even this moment. And I know that we will be victorious. Even in a land that would not allow me to claim it as my home, I want to buy a house so I can call it my home. One day, I will be called American, not just by my undocumented community, but by my nation. I mean, listen, we've got some really articulate people in this body, Republicans and Democrats. I'm not sure that any of us could write something that poignant, that beautiful, and that compelling. I'm not sure if any of that will come through, but I'm going to continue to work hard because in my heart, I know that God is bigger than even this moment, and I know that we will be victorious, even in a land that would not allow me to claim it as my home. I want to buy a house to call it my home. One day I will be called an American, not just among my community, but by my nation. There are 4,900 DACA recipients just in my state alone. I've met a lot of them. And frankly, maybe not everyone is as beautifully articulate as Faye, but boy, they have done some really impressive things with their lives. Maybe in part because they always knew that their status here was in jeopardy, and they had to make the most of their time in the United States, not knowing when it would end, knowing that they had opportunities here in the United States that they simply would not and could not have if they ever went home, especially those kids who came here when they were 3 years old, going back home in a place where they might not even speak the language, they certainly know no one, a place where opportunity is further off, even for those that were born there. They worked harder, they hustled a little bit more, knowing that they might be at risk of someday being pushed out of this country. They're Americans. Every single one of these students, these dreamers, use that phrase, this is home. And they want our help. I think this is a moral issue, first and foremost, just how we treat each other. These people are our neighbors. They're our co-workers. But 800 business leaders, CEOs from companies like Walmart and Target and Facebook, Pepsi, Kaiser, they want them to stay here because they're their employees. They know how much they add to the economic bounty of this country. They wrote to us and asked for us to provide permanent protection for these kids. 75 national colleges and universities, including all the ones in my state, Yale, Trinity, Connecticut College, the state universities, said the same thing. They want to educate these kids. They see them. They see what stellar students they are, and they just can't imagine the United States deciding to send 800,000 of these incredibly capable kids away. 186 civil and human rights groups running the gamut say this is a moral and civil rights issue. Let these kids stay. And so because of President Trump's decision to telegraph the end of the temporary protection for these students, the burden is now on us, Republicans and Democrats, to do something, and do something soon. It's hard to describe the psychological toll for these kids right now. I mean, it was bad enough when they were pushed into the shadows. It got a little bit better when they got temporary protection. But now that we've put a clock on, now that they have revealed themselves to the world and put themselves on a list that can allow them to be targeted, there's a little bit of their soul that atrophies every day as they wonder whether or not we're going to come together and do the right thing. And part of the reason why part of them is crumbling inside is because they see themselves as being made political pawns in a bigger game here. It would just be so easy for us to decide to protect these kids. Just do it now. Don't wait until the end of the year. Don't wait until this issue is mixed together with all sorts of other must-pass legislation. Just come together right now and step up and give these kids some degree of confidence that they can be there. I've heard so many of my Republican colleagues say that they want to do that. Why wait? Why push this up until the last minute? Do it right now. It's the right thing to do. In the end, whoever is up there does not look at borders. He looks at us. He looks into our soul. He thinks about how we treat those who need our help and our protection. And no one needs our help and protection more than these kids right now. 5,000 of them in my state, 800,000 of them across the country. So my plea is simple, Mr. President. Let's do this and do this now. Let's give permanent protection, citizenship, pathways to citizenship to these beautiful, beautiful boys and girls, men and women. Don't make this issue about politics. Don't make it about parties. Don't make these kids a bargaining chip in a bigger game. Just do the right thing. I promise you, if you do, you won't regret it. I yield the floor.